Good morning, and how are we all doing at the table today? How's Mr. James?
Whatever. It's all right.
That doesn't sound too good.
It's hump day, man. We're here. This is the day that we come and we share our hearts.
I told you not to say hump day. It means something completely different in the UK. You say hump day in the UK, and
it's a party.
No, they think you're a priest.
Hey, man. Well, I am none of that, but we are here at the Olympian Table, of course, where we share our minds, our thoughts about whatever's going on, throwing in our thoughts on some finance and mortgage and real estate and such. So we thank you for joining us, and we ask that you share, subscribe, like, all that good jazz. So, but we're here, though. We are here. As hump day as it is, no priest involved. What's going on in your mind today, man? Let me stop you. Let's first talk about something that you might know a little bit about. So up until this morning, which I know they're ahead, the United States had not marked a gold medal in the Olympics. It has been one of those things where usually we take away quite a few, a nice haul of medals, and man,
stealing gold from China's got to be a bit of fun.
Hey, absolutely.
Even silver and bronze will be.
Yeah, any of it. But yeah, man, the United States up until this morning hadn't even made a gold medal. We got one now. We do have one, and we got some silvers and some bronze now. But man, this Olympics is very, very, quite frankly, outside of the curling, I really haven't watched much. Have you seen anything?
Not really, to be perfectly honest. I watched a bit of, obviously, the ice skating and such like, but I think the figure skating, I think we could possibly take some.
Okay.
The speed skating, I think we'll take some. But when I say we, I mean the US.
The US.
But the truth of the matter is, they're all staggered out. What's your feeling on? Here we go. This is where I get accused of going off topic.
Oh yeah, you're good at that.
So let me go on to our little sheet, because I didn't have a chance to do much to it. And there is one thing that I wanted to ask you.
What you got?
About Gu, the American lady that wanted to. A lot of discussion at the moment about the Olympian Gu, the snowboarder, representing China.
The one that was supposedly the traitor or whatever. I
don't think she's a traitor. I mean,
well, that's what they're they call her.
Yeah, I think it's her personal preference. It's like having a dual citizenship. I really think that she could do a lot of good in China to increase the young ladies. The thing that's interesting about the 2002 Winter Olympics is, that a lot of the venues, like the snow, it's artificial. Did you know that? Artificial snow has never been used as much on most of the venues. It's all artificial.
I believe it. I believe it.
And in no Olympics before has it ever been done to this.
Really? I didn't see that. We were in Toronto one year, and we went to this mountain. Now, when we got there was no snow on the ground, which was everybody was kind of disappointed. But we wanted to go tubing, and we found this place a little bit further north where there was snow there, but they were pumping it in with these machines. So I've seen it done because it just wasn't enough. Now, the very next day, it snowed everywhere, and there was snow everywhere. But I didn't know they were doing that with the Olympics.
Yeah.
Do you think that could change? I don't know what kind of effect that has on traction or anything.
Okay, I think I mentioned this before. On skating, you basically get soft ice. We call a medium ice and a hard ice. The hockey players like the hard ice because it's normally a bit faster and less grip. But figure skate's like a little bit softy and springer, if you want to. They're a bit more giving it. And I'm sure the same applies to snow.
No, yeah.
And Beijing's done the Summer Olympics, hasn't it, as well?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's the only country. If anybody knows out there, please let us know. Is Beijing the only city to do a winter and a summer Olympics? Because it could be, especially if all their snow is artificial.
Right.
And another point that's interesting with when China won the bid for the 2022 Winter Olympic Games, they said that the Winter Olympic Games would cost like 3.9 billion.
Yeah.
And now it's gone up to like $390 billion.
I believe it.
Because of they've used it, one, to try and get everybody in, but two, to, build the high-speed train and to make everybody feel that, China's the place to invest their money in now because the development they've got. But my biggest question has always been with Olympics. It happened with Sarajevo when we did Olympics in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
They pump all this money into the city. And at the end of the day, what happens? It all goes to waste. It literally just deteriorates. The Olympic Village now in Sarajevo, when they went through the war, was all shut up. I mean, that's not going to happen in China. But
right.
A lot of these venues that they've got, it'll be interesting to see what they actually look like in 5 or 10 years' time.
That will be
some of them for the Winter Olympics have actually been built around industrial venues. So in the background, you can see chimneys, you can see different things.
Right.
So from that standpoint, it's just interesting, and I really think at times, as much as I'm an Olympian and I enjoyed the Olympics, and when you look, I'll be honest with you, in the skating, and you don't see the crowd, it's the same conversation that we had months ago. It's just not the same buzz.
Exactly.
I do think you should host the Olympics because a lot of them competitors have worked for that for years. That it's just not the same atmosphere. It's not the same buzz.
Yeah, I agree. And you asked about goo. If what my thoughts are about that. I don't know if I don't know what it is, what the reason is, but she's not the first U.S. citizzen to go and play for their country.
Absolutely.
Now, what a lot of folks don't realize is the money that these, and I haven't looked at the scale for the Winter Olympics, but the money that these teams get, the U.S. doesn't really pay out that much money, even for a gold medal. In comparison to some of the other countries, they don't pay out that much money. So if I can go to my country and I can get paid $100,000 versus $25,000 for a gold medal with the U.S., why wouldn't I do that?
But a lot of the countries directly don't pay. The money goes to the associations.
Well, yes, but
right. But the only way that the athletes get any money is with endorsements, with sponsors and Wheaties and different things like that. I mean,
but guess what we are doing? We're talking about her. I mean, so she's getting the exposure, but I don't know why they're making such a big deal.
She sent a tweet out, which I thought was a class act. And it was basically saying that the reason why she wanted to
support
China, well, I wouldn't call it supporting China, but represent China, was basically because she feels she could do more for the common good for women and young children in China, looking at her as a role model, and hopefully in 10, 20 years' time, you've got more athletes competing for China in winter sports, because apparently there aren't many females competing in winter sports. Over here, it's, skiing is one of the strongest sports,
right?
In America. So from that point, it's just been, it's Olympics are always a little bit controversial.
I mean, she's 18 years old. She's a kid, so just
and she's a very, very smart.
Right.
She does modeling. She's a student at Stanford.
Right.
I take my hat off to her. I mean, to
Absolutely.
me, it's totally up to her. What's the difference? At Aston Villa Football Club in the UK, in the Premier League, okay, we have a right back. His name's Matty Cash. We all look at him as supporters as one of the most talented youngsters in the country. He hasn't got the opportunity to, or he hasn't been given the opportunity to go and play for England.
Mm-hmm.
But and to be perfectly honest, I think he's been overlooked. So what's he done? He's decided to go and play for Romania. Now he's playing for Romania, and now he's got the option to go and do what? Play in the World Cup that's coming up next year. So, to me, it's her choice. It's her life. She should be able to do, what she wants with her life. I don't think she's a traitor. People say, well, she's been brought up in the American system and she wouldn't have the same opportunities with the American coaching. If she's got the talent, if she's got the talent, the motivation, and the application, then you know what? Regardless which country she's with, she would have been there.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: she won the gold, so it's not like she was just competing for a space.
Right.
She actually went and she won her event. So it is what it is. The peanut gallery is always going to have something to say. So whatever. But that goal could have been ours. Could have been ours. But hey, it's neither here nor there. It's all good. Salute to you, Miss Eileen Goo. Keep doing your thing. I say, do your thing. Congratulations.
So go on, James. Let's get on to some of these topics.
Let's hit it, man. Yeah, you put you put the first one in. I mean, I had to look.
I did. No closing cost mortgage. I'm saying this as a real estate agent, and the reason why I put this in was I don't see how you can ever have a no closing cost mortgage, because people are putting time into it. People, you've got to have some skin in the game, and that's the hardest part to get, on the ladder. And as a real estate agent, this is what got us into problems of 2008, issues like this. So I'll be honest, don't want to get into the same positions what we had in 2008.
There
was too many people that was hurt through that. But as a loan officer, when you read things like this, no closing cost mortgage, sometimes called a zero closing cost mortgage, is one in which your lender provides the money to pay for the closing costs on your house. In exchange, you typically pay a higher interest rate, or the size of the mortgage is increased to cover the closing costs.
So, it's moving numbers, if that makes any sense.
So you're paying later rather than...
Later, so it may be built into the interest rate. It may be built into the loan amount. Because there's different ways to kind of make things move, so to speak. So it's profitable, because what a company's not gonna do or make a practice of is losing money. I mean, it just makes no sense to do that. It's not gonna you close a bunch of loans or offer a lot of positions to where they're gonna be on the bottom side and out of money in the whole deal. So with that being said, you have to be careful when you're looking at these deals, so to speak, that it's okay, no closing costs. To your point, there's going to be costs. There's always, cost to a loan. They just may not be charging you directly. So your interest rate might be a little bit higher than others' interest rate. They may roll it into your loan amount or give you enough space to where we can roll it into the loan amount. But it's just not going to be free. I mean, that's not going to happen. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I am with it. I think it's something that people get caught up in, and they get so excited about it, and it sounds good, but if they don't do any comparison, they don't realize that they're actually paying more for the deal versus
But that's exactly the same scenario that you and me was talking about the other day. The builders do.
Oh yeah.
They give you everything up front. They overpay, and then the buyer ends up to take the buyer's incentive, take the builder's incentive, overpay for the house. you know, and it needs to me. It needs to be regulated. Builders need to be regulated, and the reason why they're not difficult, why it's very difficult to regulate builders, is because they're not licensed real estate agents.
Not. They are not. I'll just put it in the Discord for you. They are not licensed, and they, as long as they disclose their affiliated business agreement, they get away with kind of coercing someone to, hey, Steve, if you buy our house,
an interesting
we'll pay your closing costs or give you a credit towards the price.
Right. And the interesting part that you said to me the other day, which I thought was really interesting, because we had one of our agents, James, been working with one of our clients in the office, and they go buy a new house, and builders offering all this help and everything. But what's happening is, even the price that the builder wants for the home, if it doesn't appraise, they can wangle the numbers by doing a credit back to the seller. So then at least
back to the buyer.
So then the property appraises for that value, and then everybody else that buys a house after that transaction, they have a comp. So it's worth.
Yep.
So that's basically what happens, guys, in a new market. When you go into a new market and you buy a new house, the builder, in theory, can go ahead, value a house, so they're making a profit, but is not necessarily market value, correct?
Right.
Then what they can do is that initial buyer goes in, say they buy a house and they write a contract for $400,000. An appraiser comes in and values the house at $350,000. Then there's $50,000. Then what they will do is the builder will give a credit back on the closing, working the numbers, which is sort of what we're talking about here, for $50,000, which means then that on the comp, there has been a sale in that area for $400,000.
The purchase price will remain at $400,000.
So then what happens is every deal after that the builder builds, all right. So in theory, that's $50,000 profit that the builder's making.
Right.
The builder's making an extra $50,000
on every deal.
On every building
after
that they do after that,
because they can use that one comp to support it.
Right.
Sounds like crooked kind of business, but that's exactly it. You remembered exactly what I told you. Yep, that's how they do it.
Well, it played on my mind for a long time.
Right.
Because when we try to be as ethical as we do, helping the clients,
yep.
And then you look at the problems that we have in our society, which is how do, the likes of Jacob and such like, who's, was a good guy.
Right.
He doesn't go out there stealing catalytic converters and different things like that.
Exactly.
But, he's a good guy. How the heck does he get on the ladder?
Yeah.
When you've got $50,000, I mean, to a lot of people, that's a year's worth of work. Of income.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're lucky.
Yep.
So
no, I agree, man. Listen, you are preaching to the choir when it comes to that. That is just one of those things where I don't get it. I don't get how they get away with it, or why it's allowed. Period. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. What else? We had something else in finance here. Let's talk about that first before we move on.
We'll just talk a little bit about. So what you're saying is with the mortgage, they're just moving the numbers.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like to your point, the 400,000 sales price can remain at 400,000. They can just say, hey, we're going to give a builder incentive credit to this buyer and, sell it to them for, this much, blah, blah, blah. And you got that $50,000 credit where it's to that buyer, but that's the last buyer that'll get it, because that comp from here on out will be used to support that $400,000 sales price.
So from a point of view of value in the market, as a loan officer, do you recommend people to buy new houses?
I say yes. I'm not going to poo-poo on the builders. Their tactics, although they suck in some cases, not every builder is that way. Some builders don't care who the lender. It's the ones that have the internal lending partners,
the in-house portion.
The in-house portion.
Because just to and that's what I'm trying to do.
They try to
blow that up if you want to, and let everybody know. A lot of these builders, they own the title company. They've got an interest in the lender.
Right.
So, what else is there? I mean, all sorts.
Some of them have insurance companies, and in the essence of timing, I get the idea. I get the concept that, hey, we just want to kind of have our own everything kind of in house because it makes it easier. But when you start to kind of steer people to certain ways with incentives,
it's not like the political system, though.
Well, it is.
It's the same thing.
Essentially, it is. You're giving people the one choice, the one option, or else. It's like, hey, if I come in and I've gotten already pre-qualified and I'm ready to go, but in order for you to get this extra $5,000,
and that's what happened in our case, didn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Just so everybody understands, we had a fully qualified buyer already approved,
and not just
everything
qualified,
ready to go.
He had gone through clear to close on another property, and it just fell out.
Right.
So yeah.
So he had everything done. His ducks in a row. Basically, just find a house. Everything did, and then the builder came along and says, "Well, if we do the loan, we'll give you X amount of dollars." Right. Correct?
Exactly. And of course, I can't tell the buyer not to take that money. I mean, it stinks because I've gone through the entire process with him,
and we've done it by the book.
By the book.
Getting them approved, ready to go. And then all of a sudden, all these things are thrown out. And they says, well, you can only get these incentives if you use our lender.
Right.
And that's the part that I don't like. If they're going to offer incentives, it should be incentives
across the
board to everybody.
And some builders will do that. That's why I'm saying it's not every builder. It's some builders will do that, but the larger ones that have the in-house people, no knock on those guys, but they're order takers. You're not really selling anything. People coming in, they got to buy. They're gonna see the business.
One of the most eye-opening things that has ever happened to me was about 4 years ago. We had one of our agents represented a buyer, bought a house. They looked at the show home. They said, yeah, I want one exactly the same. They built one down the street. The show home had 2 air conditioners. And the one that they actually ended up buying had 1 air conditioner. And they turned around and says, no, we changed the scope.
What?
And it was the same price. And they would not do it. They said, do you want it? If not, if you want it, take it. If you don't want it, don't worry. We'll sell it to somebody else.
Somebody will buy it. Was it a larger air conditioner? The one?
It was a house downtown. It was in Rice Military.
Mm-hmm.
We told them not to take it, but they said no. We'll have to take it because I'm going to start the whole thing again.
Yeah, well, the tragedy is they're right. Somebody will buy it. Somebody will buy it, and that's just the risk that they'll take with doing business. But oh well. So anywho, man. You put in about refinancing. People are rushing to do refinances now.
This is what we said last week on the podcast.
And mainly because the interest rates have taken a turn for the worse. I mean, it's unfortunate that people waited to this point to where they feel like they're forced to do it, but it's not too late, but rates are already gone. They've already shifted. We've already seen several shifts in it, and people think, of course, that the Fed's coming out and talking about interest rates is, the one to watch.
Was that last week? It was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? I don't remember. We were we were talking about it, but nevertheless, they come out and say,
You know what? It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's last week. Last week I wasn't here.
Right. So the Fed rates don't directly impact mortgage rates, but it shows the trend where they could be.
They didn't put them up, did they?
No, they're going to be meeting again next month. So That's why people, I think, are trying to rush now, because they hear that and they're like, "Oh, we need to go. We need to go and refinance. We need to go." And rates about 3.5 right now, and that's for perfect credit. So folks that waited, that's what people are calling. Oh, I got offered a 3% or a 2.8. Like, well, you better take it. That's awesome. You had better take that thing, because if you're messing around waiting for it to go down, it's not. It is not. So,
and I laugh about it now, but I also cry about it now. As I said to you, when I bought my first house in America, the interest rate was 18%.
18%. Yeah. I remember selling rate that high back when I got started in the business. But that's what they were. People didn't cry about it. They didn't
still
complain.
Paid it down.
Paid it. Hey, it works. People will, if rates go to 7%, people are still going to buy homes. It's not going to stop people from buying houses. Maybe they won't be as big, and maybe old Jacob will be in his apartment a little bit longer than he wants to, but
I'm sure I will.
But it happens.
But that also leads us on to there's not many houses left to buy.
Man, tell me about it.
There was an article on Yahoo the other day, and it said housing is probably going to keep getting more and more expensive despite the Fed's efforts to cool the market. The big picture, the supply of houses for sale plunged to record lows in recent months, and even if you can win the bidding war for one of them, the cost of a mortgage is on the rise.
This morning I was on a call. I do Monday through Thursday. Well, just a Zoom call I do. Which we start at 7:30, and we just kind of share little tidbits. But what was shared this morning was that this January was the quickest sell through of inventory. Like, homes were on the market for the shortest amount of time ever this January. So not only do we have a little bit of inventory, we're selling through it faster than we have any other time.
So days on market is
low.
Is reducing.
Yeah, it's low.
One of the issues that I think is hitting people as well is people are holding on to their homes now as an investment. So if they're if they've got a house,
they're keeping it.
They're keeping it. They're not reselling it.
Right.
They're keeping it and having it as a rental income. And that's predominantly popular in metro areas like Houston, and
right.
stuff like that, holding on to them houses. And that's what started to cause the immense increase in prices in the city of London, to be perfectly honest. You had millionaires and billionaires and companies and corporations coming in and buying houses in the centre of London, driving out the residents.
Very common folk, huh?
Yeah. And I think the same thing's happening now, to be perfectly honest, in Houston. It's getting very, very expensive for a home.
It is
in Houston. It
used to be that if you got a pre-qualification for $200,000, you'd have your run of homes to look at. Now the 300 is the new 200. You need to be about qualifying to buy a $300,000 home in order to have a decent pool of homes to look at. Because at 200, I mean, you can find something, but you may not want to live there or live in the neighborhood. So, yeah, man, it's a very, very unique place to be. I look at when we bought our home in 2016, and now I know we have well over $100,000 in equity in our house, and that was 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago. So, my MI is already fallen off. So it's one of those things where it's good in some ways and not so good in others. So,
well, but the problem is it's taking the first step to get on the ladder. That's the hard part. As soon as you get on the ladder, then you're on the ladder. At least you're somewhere on the ladder.
Absolutely.
But if you don't take that first step, when I look at the likes of my daughter and my son, I'm thinking, how the heck are you going to buy your first house?
They're going to live with you forever.
Well, God, oh no, I can't do that.
Oh man. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to bring a damper to the show. But
no, I'm sorry.
But anywho, man, that's where we live. So, folks, we tell you, get out there and buy. Get on the ladder, as Steve says. take the first step. Get pre-qualified.
Even if it's
start
a
to
little
look.
condo.
Yeah, something.
Even if it's a little condo, even if it's a little townhouse.
You never know.
And there are some out there. I mean,
There are, for sure.
yeah, I bought a little condo, not too long ago. Needed a lot of work doing to it. I put a lot of tender loving care in it, but I mean, it was, just under 50. It was.
It's yours.
It's mine.
Yeah.
But it's part of my retirement fund.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
So man,
tell me about the Biden administration. What are you going to say about the Biden administration now to give out smoking?
Hey
kits?
man, listen, I didn't say anything.
But it came from Fox News, which is an opinion-based.
It's not. Which of them aren't opinion-based? Please tell me. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. The crap news network. You got to be kidding me. So this, if you would, there, Jacob, let's just play this little clip. It's not that long. Let's just play this clip. Now, Leo Terrell is he's a contributor, but I think he's a school teacher in the area. Let's just play the clip.
The Biden administration allocating $30 million to distribute crack pipes to drug addicts, all in the name of racial equity. HHS telling the Washington Free Beacon these kits might include pipes for smoking crack and meth, claiming that it will help curb infections. Here to react, Fox News contributor and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. Hey, Leo.
Hi, Ainsley.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. They're handing out these crack pipes to drug addicts. Can be used to smoke crack cocaine, crystal meth, or any illicit substance. I assume that you're not for this. This is going to be a disaster, right?
Listen, I want to be very clear. They're using the term racial equity. Ainsley, racial equity is a code for affirmative action, low expectation, and you're basically having the government involved in distributing equipment, pipes, to help encourage drug use in minority communities. How does that achieve racial equality?
I'll
tell you right now, it is a horrible
with
idea.
the whole
It is an idea
the whole
where
thing.
you're
I mean,
encouraging
obviously,
drug use
I don't think
instead
it's
of
something that the
preventing drug
government
use.
should have
And
any
it's the mindset
investment
of
in.
My man, come on, Steve. Let's go ahead and pause that video there.
And the other thing is, I think it's a little bit when it says a racial equity push. I think it's sort of dragging African Americans down, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there's some good African Americans out there that don't smoke the stuff anyway. There's white guys out there that smoke the stuff anyway.
Well, here's my deal with it. And
I had a call this morning from one of my agents. I've just released a home to somebody, and I went there to visit to do a repair, and it just so happened that the place stunk of marijuana.
It happens, for sure. So I don't know that the racial equality thing wasn't thrown on by Fox News. I don't know that was the actual policy that was set. My big issue, to your point, why is the government involved in buying paraphernalia for someone to do drugs?
Shouldn't.
Of any sort.
Of course they shouldn't. I mean,
and $30 million worth.
They should.
You know how many crack pipes that is? That's a whole lot of crack pipes, man. $30 million to do this. It makes zero sense to me. I mean, I was flabbergasted when I saw the article. I told my wife, because she's kind of like you. She's
sensible.
Yeah, I guess if you want to call it that, or delusional, whichever one.
You wait till I see her next. When I see her next in this office, I'm going to say, James says that you're delusional, just like me.
But nevertheless,
I'll make your life. Your life miserable.
Why? I just don't get how this is even a sensible thing to do.
Well, it's not. It does make. It's got no common sense to it, unless there's other factors that are not being brought to the table. I mean,
well, they're saying to make it a safer smoking experience or a safer drug use. I don't know.
You see, the part that frustrates me about the statement you just made is this. All right. It's safer for me not to walk across the street
and see
I don't get knocked over.
To see somebody doing it. Exactly.
So that's what doesn't make sense about that philosophy about, well, if we do this, it makes it safer. I just don't.
I mean, quite frankly,
it doesn't make sense.
It's encouraging the behavior, and it's putting government money behind it. That makes zero sense to me.
Well, have you?
And you know my thoughts about the drugs, so.
Well, we both got the same thing with the, about the drugs. Did you hear what the men's bobsleigh have nicknamed their bob?
Sled?
Yeah.
No, what?
I don't want to tell you because it's playing straight into your hand.
Which men? What team?
The men's bobsleigh team at the Winter Olympics. Apparently,
for the U.S.?
Yeah.
No.
They've nicknamed their bobsleigh Biden because it goes south. They've never gone south so fast.
I'm surprised you shared that with me.
Well, I thought it was funny.
It is funny.
I thought it was funny because if Trump was in power, I mean, have a guess what they would have probably called it?
Trump.
And I'm thinking to myself, really? Really?
Oh, man.
And then people say about this, the goo lady.
Yeah.
It sounds horrible. Eileen Goo. I mean, and it's like, and then you're saying that. Go compete for China.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, man, I thought that was interesting, man, to see that little article. I'm no fan of any of the news stations outside of Newsmax. I will watch those guys. But other than that, it is what it is. So while we're on being under the influence, we skipped over one earlier. There was a lady in this article was in Boston. This lady, she's a professor at some school or whatever. Well, apparently she was dating this cop in Boston, her boyfriend, and she went to drop him off at a local bar with his friends. And apparently, man, she was so drunk that when she dropped him off, she ran him over outside of the bar and went back home. Went back home Friday night, dropped him off at the little it was either a bar or somebody's house or something. It was at a party. Dropped him off.
There's so many jokes you could crack about that.
You could.
That just don't.
So
aren't in good taste, so I'm not going to.
I don't know if he was walking in front of the car or behind the car, whatever. So anyway, when she turned left, she ran the dude over. Okay? Now, it was in Boston, so it's snowing, Steve. In the morning, she gets up and realizes, man, my car's all beat up. What's the deal? She's all frantic and trying to get in touch with the dude because he didn't come home the night before. Man, come to find out, man, she ran this dude over. And they found him outside in the street with all the blood and broken cocktail glasses all around under the snow. And it was 30 inches of snow in the area that night, bro. So she was so drunk, she didn't realize she hit him, woke up the next morning, sees the damage, and doesn't remember even running the dude over. How drunk must you be to carry on or under the influence of something?
Well, she's a professor of what? Biology?
I don't know what she a professor
there's so many smart cracks you could make about that.
I just thought that was very interesting. She did plead guilty, and they released her on I think it was $50,000 bond. I don't know how they come up with those numbers, but
I was just about to say, it'd be interesting to get a legal person on to explain how they even come up with these numbers.
Yeah, $50,000. So she pays for what, $5,000 to get out. But yeah, man, she killed him dead. So she's a cop killer.
So what's the cause of death on the death certificate?
I would have. The cause of death would be vehicular manslaughter. Would be my thought. Head trauma.
Blunt force trauma.
Blood. Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines.
By a car.
Yeah. I mean, that would suck. I mean, killing somebody on purpose would suck enough, but doing it by mistake, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine living
What
with
was
that.
she drunk on? I mean, was she drunk on alcohol or was she drunk on other things?
Well, they said it was alcohol.
Perhaps she was using Biden's.
She was in the plane.
donation.
She was testing out the crack pipes.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows? She may have been, man. I mean, but my goodness, to be that drunk. Don't get me wrong. In my testimony building days, there were a couple of times, but I wasn't driving. I wasn't, doing any of that stuff. And I know you've what they say. You've been knackered before out there in these streets.
But I've been involved in the Olympics, and I was in a different time. I mean,
yeah.
we just didn't do things like that.
Yeah, these days people think they're I'm just a little buzzed. Well, a little buzz is drunk, so it's against the law. So don't do it. Don't drink and drive. Call Uber. Who knows? Oh well. What you got up for the weekend, man?
What have I got the weekend?
Yeah. Besides work, I know you'll be working.
I know, I work every day, but I'm thinking to myself, I've got to put up with this Super Bowl thing.
Well, Super Bowl is here.
Super full day.
Super full. You got it. We got
31 million people watching it. Is that cool?
Well, they're not.
And the business that it generates, in all fairness, the business that the Super Bowl generates for the US
it's ridiculous. Not watching.
Not as much as the World Cup.
Well, that's the whole world. The World Cup is essentially, I know in the Super Bowl, and my wife always argues this, well, why when you win the Super Bowl, they call you world champions? You're not playing the whole world. She always says that. But in the World Cup.
I'm with her.
Shit, yeah.
It's not a world championship.
In the World Cup, it is definitely the whole world, and the whole world watches, because every time World Cup comes, no matter where they are, I get up and I watch the games. I can remember, I think it was it Brazil one year? I can't remember where it was.
It was in Brazil.
But I remember getting up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to watch the games live, just to make sure that I could check it out as it was going on.
We should have the Canadian Football League. The winners of that season should face our winners of the U.S. team, and they face it.
There you go.
And that would be something I think a lot of people would want to watch.
We would crush them. Their rules suck.
Oh, absolutely, but at least make a good football game.
Absolutely. It would be a good football game. But yeah, man, it's 31 million Americans are betting on the Super Bowl. 31 million people. That's more people than we have here.
Think of all the money even in Texas that's leaving the state. We need to legalize gambling.
We do. I don't know why it isn't. If you choose to gamble your money.
Think how busy Vegas is going to be this weekend.
Oh, it is. It's crazy. That's
Atlantic City. I mean, all them places.
That's a 35% increase from last year, from where the numbers were as far as betting goes. So I don't know who's going to be betting on the Bengals, but I should go ahead and drop some money out there because people are probably betting against them, quite frankly, because the Rams are supposed to be
I'm rooting for the Bengals.
I'm rooting for the Bengals.
Me too. I think I am as well. It's been a long time for those guys.
I would love to see Joe Burrow.
Really?
Yeah.
You got some connection or just?
Well, no, I just would like to see like a rookie. Yes, he's not like a rookie, but he's pretty new, and that'd be really cool to see him win a Super Bowl after this is his second season. Yeah.
And having been drafted to one of the most terrible teams